There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
Innovation, resilience, agility. It's how Michigan businesses continue to work together to make a difference now and shape the future. Join us and make your mark where it matters. Visit michiganbusiness.org/radio.
We took a call in the previous segment from a caller who was taking up for Kahale Waring. Seth went off. It was just flat out like, and I don't know that it was necessarily unjustified. You know, Kahale Waring.
Well, it wasn't because of Kahale Waring. It was because the guy basically tried to tell us that he proved that we had a bad take on Kahale Waring by saying that he got signed by Buffalo and he's gonna be awesome this year.
Right.
See how stupid you guys are. So like, okay. And you guys are dumb because you know what? The reason he got cut was because he was injured yet again.
Right.
So somehow that was what pissed me off.
Yeah.
Was that the guy was acting like he was dunking on us because Kahale Waring got signed to Buffalo's practice squad or something.
Yeah, his fourth team in 14 days. So I would say one good way to wash the taste from that would be to go to Larry in Stafford, who I know is not going to come in claiming Pro Bowls for fringe guys that are getting cut by multiple teams in 2 weeks. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Sean, and not only am I not going to do that, we know that Kahale got picked up because Brian Gaines is in Buffalo, and he's giving him a solid because he drafted him. So we know that's what's going on up in Buffalo. But to think that he's going to make the Pro Bowl, I mean, we need to quit drinking this early in the morning. And
he hasn't even made the team yet. He's on the practice squad. He has to make the team.
Exactly. Some other team can just go snatch him off a practice squad up in Buffalo and cut his ass again. So we know that can happen. But hey, Sean, I wanted to call in because previous segment, you was talking about the potential of the Texans and the AFC South and how, it's not looking as difficult as it may seem about, Tennessee and Indianapolis, right?
Yes.
So as I was listening, I was thinking, Sean, I don't need to fire up my old Commodore 64 to remind you guys that I was thinking this in the whole offseason as to why I was so engaged about keeping Deshaun Watson, because I had looked at everybody's schedule because I knew every time I go into my barber shop, which my barber is one of the biggest Titan fans in the city of Houston, he's going to constantly remind me that they're going to win the AFC South. And I kept telling him, I'm like, hey, bro, y'all schedule isn't as easy as you think it's going to be, and y'all still got Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So if we could just get my boy back on board, I would still give us a legitimate shot. Look, it's football. And I know it's okay. I told y'all earlier this week, it's okay to enjoy that we beat the Jacksonville Jaguars because the Jaguars came in here thinking they were going to get a win, and, they're still with a rookie quarterback. But having said all that, the whole dynamic change if they take their ass to Cleveland and win, Sean, because then you got to start looking at some things like, can Tyrod Taylor get you through the first quarter of the season 3-1 or 4-0, and then what you going to do over there with Nick and Deshaun? Because, look, we have to understand, and this is not just about Deshaun Watson. This is about the NFL and the team as a whole. You got to understand that you have a franchise quarterback. And if that franchise quarterback can get you into the playoffs, we know anything goes. Look, I'm going to just keep sitting back here and enjoying this one because it may be the only one I get because I'm not counting any of them ahead of time. But I'll just tell you this, it gives us a little peek into the window of what can happen if you get on a good roll, because I'm almost positive most teams that start 2-0, except for them Texans when they lost to the Chargers or they beat the Chargers and 49ers, you start 2-0, you got a chance, Sean. So it's just an interesting conversation. I'm enjoying it. But, damn, Myles Garrett and Clowney over there, man, it's going to be an interesting week for Tyrod and old Heck and Cannon and our house.
I appreciate you, Larry. Yeah, and it's funny. It's almost like the direction Larry was going there, Seth, was like, hey, if Tyrod Taylor keeps winning, that might mean they need to bring Deshaun Watson back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little counterintuitive, but it's Larry is hanging on to that Deshaun branch like he's on the banks of a raging river right now. And I admire it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with Deshaun is whenever you start to either talk yourself into wanting Deshaun back or whatever it might be, remember, it might be completely out of the Texans' hands. For one, he's alleged to have done some stuff that should, if he did it, get him in a whole bunch of trouble. If he didn't do it at all, it's still going to play off. It's going to take a long time to play out, and the commissioner might just go ahead and slap him on the commissioner's exempt list anyway. So there's just way more into it than just, hey, the Texans look competitive, we'll just bring Deshaun back.
Well, I was thinking about this morning. You know, if this team ends up having young players that they want to hang on to, like Scotty Phillips, for example, like I don't think this team can sustain having 5 running backs on the roster, even if it turns out to not be a very good team. There's going to reach a point where they're going to have to drop a player or expose a player to waivers that they don't want to. And especially if it's a player like Scotty Phillips, who he was inactive this week, so by definition he's at the fringe of the roster. I think a lot of the fans really like Scotty Phillips right now because of the effort he put forth in the preseason, and they want to see something. They want to see the team use him at some point. If they were to lose him but keep Deshaun with an active roster spot, I think that is something that you're then open for, like at least some criticism's a tough word because obviously you're not going to waive Deshaun Watson to keep Scotty Phillips. But my God, come up with something that forces the hand of the league to put him on the commissioner's exempt list, or come up with an injury or something. That's what I wonder, Seth. Is Deshaun Watson going to mysteriously pull a back muscle in a workout at some point here?
This is the problem. It's that the Texans, whether you think it's advisable or not, I think it makes sense that the Texans want to keep as many options open as possible. You know, like they want to, if some team out there, and all it takes is one team, if some team out there with playoff hopes gets desperate because their quarterback went down and they want to trade a bounty of some sort to the Texans, then they want to keep their options open. If there's one thing I've learned about the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson in the last 9 months, is that there is absolutely no way you should be trying to predict what happens. And I think the Texans know that themselves. So even though it might seem unlikely, they don't want to close off the chance of getting a big draft pick by they put Deshaun on the IR. Then all of a sudden, some team that's desperate for a quarterback isn't going to want to have to wait 3 weeks to bring him back if they trade for him, you know?
Right.
Or if somehow he gets if they ask to put him on the commissioner's exempt list, then some team definitely isn't going to trade for him. And maybe there's been movement or progress on the civil suit front that we don't know about. That's the other big unknown. We just don't have a clue. Maybe they're closer to resolving those 22 lawsuits than previously thought. Who knows? So I think there's multiple reasons that make sense that the Texans are doing what they're doing. We just don't know what it could be the dumbest thing in the world, or it could actually make sense. We just don't know.
The police investigation is the one that I'm most curious about. Yeah. I think that's the resolution on that is going to loosen up the trade possibilities much more than any sort of update on the civil side of things.
One of our listeners says, I'm more shocked that David Johnson is taking up a roster spot than a young upstart like Scotty Phillips could use. This is where I am with Scotty Phillips. I like him a lot, but I also know that running backs, you know, unless they are the exception, have a very short shelf life these days in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm all for limiting the total number of touches Scotty Phillips gets until it's meaningful touches. And if he gets spot duty this year in a few games, because at some point, David Johnson or Mark Ingram or Rex Burkhead is likely going to get injured because of everything I just said about running backs. Scotty Phillips is going to get his touches, but I don't need him to get more than 150 or so just to get his feet wet. And then keep him as fresh as possible when you can keep him on his rookie deal for as long as possible.
I do think you want to kind of learn what you have with him in regular season games at some point. You know, kind of like a modified argument you make for Davis Mills getting a few starts under his belt.
And I guess that's kind of easing your way into the season too, where you're trying to walk this line between thinking about the long term but be able to compete within games here. In that first week, look, David Johnson made some really nice blitz pickups in pass protection that I think a younger player probably wouldn't have. Yep. And when you're trying to get the ball rolling, compete against the bad teams, do all those things. That it's not bad to have the veteran guy out there for now.
Payne and Pendergast with you on a Thursday. All right, are we buying the story that a sports talk radio caller made to a Washington, D.C. radio show? I believe on our sister station up there. Are we buying this claim about Ryan Fitzpatrick's hip injury? You will not want to miss this. It's next.
There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
How is your mental health? Billie Eilish, Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Imagine Dragons, Lil Nas X, and so many more feel the same pressures we do. They're joining our host, Carson Daly, for I'm Listening, September 23rd, starting at 6 p.m. right here. Carson and a cast of mental health experts, athletes, musicians, other notables, and you will share stories, insights, and help us all remember that we are not alone. Please join us, because talking about our mental health has the power to save lives. For more, visit imlistening.org.
I'm Doc Rivers, and I'm proud to present a new podcast documentary series called It Was Said Sports, where I guide you through 6 of the most impactful and timeless speeches in sports history. Listen and follow It Was Said Sports, a documentary podcast presentation of Shining City Audio, a C13 Originals, and John Meacham Studio. Available now on Odyssey and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast, presented by Allied Home Security.
All right, so Brian Mitchell is a former NFL player, kick returner extraordinaire for the Redskins and the Eagles back in the day, back when they were the Redskins, not
Didn't
the football
Brian Mitchell?
team.
Brian Mitchell used to do that like Wolverine celebration, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. He's from Louisiana. I know that. JP Finley is his co-host. They do the midday show on 106.7 The Fan. That's our sister station up in the D.C. area. And we know Ryan Fitzpatrick was supposed to be the starting quarterback this season for the Washington football team. He started week 1, but he suffered a pretty serious hip injury in week 1. So now Taylor Heineke is going to be the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future for Washington. And Fitzy has gone on the injured reserve list for now. We'll see if he comes back, but it's a pretty bad hip injury. They had a caller, Mitchell and Finley had a caller call their show yesterday with some intel on Ryan Fitzpatrick, basically saying that the hip injury he suffered in the game was really kind of a faking of an injury because he suffered the injury on a water slide at a local water park in the summertime.
What's up, man? You're on with B. Mitchell Finley.
I'm pretty sure Ryan Fitzpatrick re-injured his hip during the game against the Chargers. Where you guys saw round 2, we saw round 1 at Symington Water Park in Leesburg at Ida Lee on the last day. Because 3 times a week he'd bring all of his 7 million boys up there. They'd go on the slow slide. He always go on the fast slide. And then about mid-afternoon, it looked like he whacked his hip on the fast slide, and then he didn't do no slide the rest of the day. Everybody at the park saw he was going around either like a awkward gait or a shuffle walk the rest of the afternoon, and he parked it in his chair. I think he re-aggravated it during that game. Okay,
so there's more, but let's just set where we are right now with this caller. Ryan Fitzpatrick took his 7 million boys. He has 7 kids, just so people know.
He does have 7. Are they all boys, though? I think he does have 7. I think he has 7 boys. I don't know. He's got 7 kids.
He's got a ton of kids. He's got 7 kids. And according to this caller, he would bring them all to the water park. They would all go on the slow slides. Fitzy would leave them to go over on the fast slides. And when he'd get off the fast slide, everybody in the park was talking about the odd limp and gait that he was walking around the park with after getting off the fast slide.
3 times a week they'd be at this water park, yes.
Have you ever been on a fast water slide, Seth, that damages your hip repeatedly?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've been on. I don't do water parks anymore, man. No. The last time I did a slide, It was at Lake Norman up there. No, not Lake Norman. It was the Lake Lanier, which is a dangerous lake to swim in, but the water park's even worse. I went around a corner and I got airborne and I came down, I crashed down on the concrete and I was messed up the rest of the day, limping around like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I was. That's possible.
Was this?
I think sometimes too, especially, I think larger athletes, I think the physics of our anatomy aren't conducive to water slides. Because I think we have less surface area in a dense body, so we're like bullets going down the thing. Like the water resistance doesn't slow us down as much. Very, very dangerous for the likes of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Seth Payne.
Okay, here's more from that caller to our sister station up in D.C.
He has 7 boys, 7 kids.
He has 7 kids.
They go 2-3 times a week, and they go down the slow slide. He goes down the fast slide, and everybody saw he whacked it at the very end of the fast on the last day we were open. And then he's had a shuffle walk for the rest of the day. That's why I'm pretty sure.
Listen, man, I appreciate the call.
This is Hipgate.
Hipgate, I love that. It's Hipgate. All right, Seth, what is the least believable part of that caller's story about Ryan Fitzpatrick?
The least believable part, by far, is that all 7 of his children go down the slow slide.
Okay.
Well, he goes down the fast slide because his son, his one son, remember his son that did the math trick?
Yeah.
That was back in 2014.
Right.
And that kid was like at least 10 or 11 by then, right? Wasn't he?
I don't think he was that old. I think he was early elementary school.
Well, let's say he was 8 years old.
Okay. Yeah.
So now he's 14 or 15. He's not going down the slow slide.
No.
I would say the oldest of his 7 children are probably in their teens by now. So they're not those boys aren't going down the slow slide. I would not think. The other very unlikely thing about this, Sean, is that I looked up the Symington Aquatic Center in Leesburg, Virginia, or wherever.
Yeah, naturally you did.
If Fitzy, look, I don't know if you know this or not, but Fitzy went to Harvard. He's a bright guy, and he's been in the NFL forever. If Fitzy were going to be taking his kids to a water park 2 or 3 times a week, it would not be the Symington Aquatic Center, which has, when that guy said a fast slide, and a slow slide, those are the 2 slides that
Oh, so this is like a neighborhood pool or something.
Yeah,
okay, it's not like Schlitterbahn, right?
Yeah. So this guy did a pretty good job because the best fake calls, the best troll jobs, kind of say ludicrous, absurd things that might also be true, but they're funny when you think about it. Like the image of of Fitzy sending his kids over to the slow slide. Well, he goes down the fast slide by himself and then runs back up the ramp to get in top, waits in line, then goes down the fast slide again. He just can't get enough of going down the fast slide. It's a pretty funny image. But yeah, I'm not buying this one bit that I don't think the guy that's been in the NFL for 20 years chooses to bring his kids to the budget water park 3 times a week.
You that's a good one as far as the least believable thing being his kids, all 7 of his kids going on the slow slide and Fitzy just leaving them and going on the fast slide by himself like he's a big kid. That you're right. That's the least believable part. Second
hitting on the college girls.
Right. Just big ass beard. So 2 to 3 times a week to the water park. Now that's actually, now that you lay it out, that it's more like a neighborhood pool with probably with the geysers that shoot up that the little kids run through.
Yeah.
And 2 slides and a couple little rides that they've got. That 2 to 3 times a week is believable if it's in your neighborhood. If it was a real water park, no chance he's going 2 to 3 times a week to a real water park. I'd like me a good water park once every 3 or 4 weeks in the summertime. But twice, 2 or 3 times a week with 7 kids? I don't even know that Fitzy could afford that on his $10 million salary. These places are pricey, man.
Now, as far as I could tell, that's the only aquatic center or water park I could find. It's Symington Aquatic Center in Leesburg, Virginia. Yeah, I'm not. I give the guy credit though. I wonder if he's actually an employee of the water park and he did that for his buddies or not, or if he made the story up completely. I'd like to get. Is the guy called in to stick up for Collie Waring? I didn't really believe the guy. Everybody listening, we had a guy call in a half hour ago sticking up for Collie Waring. He claimed that he was Kahali's father's buddy, and I wasn't buying it because I'd heard this call where this guy calls in kind of with the same voice and sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So that's why I felt fine going off on that guy because I don't think he was actually related to Collie Waring or knew Collie Waring. Plus, he had a really thick New York accent.
He did. He absolutely did. All right. Someone says I think it was Brian Dawkins who did the Wolverine celebration.
Oh yeah. Of course, it was Brian Dawkins. Yeah, Dawkins did some really cool stuff.
Yeah. So it was an Eagle, but it was Brian Dawkins. So there you go. All right, 713-572-4610 if you want to get in. The two Astros who probably have the most to gain over the next 2 months. That's next.
There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
I'm Doc Rivers, and I'm proud to present a new podcast documentary series called It Was Said Sports, where I guide you through 6 of the most impactful and timeless speeches in sports history. Listen and follow It Was Said Sports, a documentary podcast presentation of Shining City Audio, a C13 Originals, and John Meacham Studio. Available now on Odyssey and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Odyssey's going back to school, and we've got all the supplies you need, like A+ exclusive music stations and podcasts to help you or your student excel. Wake up and get the school day started with Acoustic Sunrise, the best mix of acoustic pop. Hit the books with Classical Odyssey, passionate classical music to help you focus while you study. Listen to essential school podcasts like Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, and be inspired with TED Talks Daily. Get back to school with new exclusive stations, plus all your favorite local radio stations and podcasts on Odyssey.
Live from the Twin Peaks studios, Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast.
Sean Pendergast, Seth Payne with you on a Thursday. Good to be with you. We'll get back to the Texans here shortly. The Astros, they win last night over the Texas Rangers 7-2. They'll close out the 4-game set tonight in Arlington. They are in the midst of a stretch where they're playing 16 straight games, and it looks like they're on a collision course with the Chicago White Sox in the ALDS, and hopefully another nice, deep postseason run. MLB.com, Seth, had an article that I could not agree more with when it comes to two specific Astros. The article was about 7 free agents with a lot on the line this month, and the Astros are the only team that have 2 of the 7 in here. Carlos Correa and Zach Greinke, for different reasons, obviously. Well, the same reason. They're both trying to cash in as free agents, but at very different stages of their career, obviously. I agree wholeheartedly with this, that it's not just about winning a ring these next couple months. And I would say it's probably more important for Correa in the postseason than it is for Greinke in the postseason. Because I think, here's what they say in the article about Correa. Correa has at last been healthy and effective all season, and he could end up with the most lucrative deal of any free agent this winter, given his age. He's also been a playoff force in the past and is going to have ample opportunity to do so again. Let us not forget he has postseason walk-offs in 2 consecutive Octobers, 2019 and 2020. That's that last part where it starts with he's been a playoff force. Carlos Correa's numbers are good this year. They're not eye-popping. His batting average is in the high 270s. He's got decent power numbers. Carlos Correa's superhero power that's irreplaceable for this team is his glove and his arm. It's what he does in the field. That's what's going to get, if he's going to get 10 years, $300 million from somebody, it will be because he's a good offensive player and a great defensive player. That'll be why he ultimately gets paid by somebody. And if it's 10 years, it won't be the Astros. Hate to break it to everybody. But it will also be, Seth, that last part, playoff force. Carlos Correa is sellable to a fan base. I mean, I say sellable to a fan base like someone would be disappointed and you need to sell him to a fan. He's a really good baseball player. His playoff performance is going to be a big reason why a team is going to cost justify giving that much money to a guy who, let's face it, at this point in his career, I don't think the people forecasting A-Rod for Carlos Correa, he's never going to get there offensively. He's never going to become a 45 home run a year, 120 a year. he's never going to become what I think Yordan Alvarez is going to become with the bat in the middle of the lineup. I want him to remain an Astro, but he's never going to become that. He's a really good player, but you can certainly sell it to a fan base. And I think if you're analytical about all this stuff as a front office, you can sell it to yourself that, man, this dude is not A-Rod over 162 games, but for some reason when those lights go on in October, that's what he becomes for that 30-day period in October. He needs to keep that up in October, Carlos Correa does, if he's going to get the money he wants to get.
And that's where, Correa, if you look at WAR, wins above replacement. So without getting too deep into it, for people that don't, do any of the non-traditional stats, WAR is just, they try to quantify how many extra wins do you provide for your team compared to, say, a AAA call-up if he were to take your place. Carlos Correa is 6th in WAR right now in Major League Baseball. So if you were strict adherent to WAR, you'd say, wow, he's the 6th best player in baseball this year. The thing that's unique about Carlos Correa is that, like you said, his offensive numbers are not eye-popping. In fact, they're lower than a lot of these other guys that he's better at on the total WAR. It's that among the leaders in WAR, he's the only guy that's got a 2.3 defensive WAR. Like almost everybody else is based, every other offensive player, it's based on their offense. Every non-pitcher, it's based on their offense. So Carlos Correa has a 2.3 defensive WAR. Other than Marcus Semien, everybody else is below a 1. So that's how good of a combo player he is. And I think there is still something about a shortstop who can actually produce offensively that's a relative rarity. Even though it's more common these days than it was back in the day, it's a relative rarity. So I think I think teams will look at him as the complete picture. I asked when I was on filling in for a show last week, I was lucky enough to be on when Tony Gwynn was on.
Yeah.
And I asked Tony Gwynn, okay, well, what is defense worth to teams these days? And he said, well, anybody, you can find anybody to go out and play good defense. And I guess I wish I would have pressed him on it a little bit more because I don't think you can go out and you can go out and find a shortstop that can play good defense, but usually has a horrible bat. It's still rare enough and important enough that I think it matters. And then exactly Carlos Correa in the playoffs is so freakishly consistent that it almost defies belief. If you look at the total number of playoff series that he's had, he's really only had one below average series at the plate. Which is if you look at any really good player over the course of 14 series of baseball series, they're going to have a couple bad series here or there, and including in the regular season. Correa's almost never bad in the playoffs. He's always at least average or above average in the playoffs. And I think it's enough of a sample size now that even the stat nerds will say, okay, yeah, there's something about this guy in prime time. There's something about this guy when it really matters. And for those teams that are trying to get over the hump, he's going to be worth a whole lot of money.
It's going to be fascinating because I think the postseason performance, while there are statistics that back it up, it really is somewhat subjective. It really is kind of a thing that you're just counting on him being able to turn that switch when he goes and plays for whatever team signs for him. I think the other thing too that's very subjective, very touchy-feely, but I think certain front offices will help cost justify Carlos Correa and making an offer to him is the way he stepped up after the sign stealing scandal. The way that he was accountable for it, for one. The way that he took up for Jose Altuve, the way that he took up for his teammates, the defiance that he had against the Cody Bellingers of the world is probably something that, Seth, ironically, and maybe somewhat hypocritically, most front offices looked at in the moment at the time because the Astros were so hated in the midst of the punishment being doled out. They're like, yes, Carlos Correa is a jerk, man. Listen to him talking trash about these teams that don't steal signs like the Astros did. Ironically, if I were a general manager, now that you get a chance to sit back and now it's about courting Carlos Correa and envisioning what he would be like in your clubhouse, the way that he handled the sign-stealing scandal would be something that would be a huge green check mark for me as a general manager.
Yeah, you know what's funny, Sean? I was talking about this with Brandy, who, by the way, texted me earlier and said that she needs me to stop Brandy wants me to stop referring to the cheating scandal as a cheating scandal and call it the being better than everybody else scandal. Since
she's awesome.
Since she's saying so many teams were doing it, it's just that the Astros were really, really good while they were doing it. That's why they got the scrutiny and the scorn. So the fact that Carlos Correa defended his team during the being better than everybody else scandal, when I think about defending Astros fandom to people outside the market, the one thing I never bring up, because nobody would ever understand it, is that, Carlos Correa wasn't even that popular in the fan base until the cheating scandal.
True.
Like, the cheating scandal, not only do we not care about the cheating scandal, and not only do we gladly celebrate the 2017 World Series, we didn't even really like Carlos all that much until he angrily defended all of his teammates following the cheating scandal. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, everybody else. We don't give a damn.
The best thing to ever happen to him was the cheating scandal. It gave him an opportunity to become a babyface in his own hometown. Because let's not forget, we were coming off of a year where Carlos Correa missed massive chunks of the year because a masseuse broke a rib in his back.
Yeah,
that's what we were coming off of.
He was very frustrating. He would show signs of being an MVP candidate, but then he would get his ribs broken by a massage therapist. God, how many massage scandals can one town handle?
No kidding.
What a weird, why does it have to be with the very best players on their team?
Yes.
This is literally,
you could argue the two most important athletes in town right now to the outcome of games for their teams, Carlos Correa and Deshaun Watson.
If Carlos Correa leaves in free agency, my consolation prize needs to be that we find out what actually happened.
Yes.
That's how
Don't let him leave till he tells.
How awesome would that be if he actually, if he all of a sudden on YouTube pops up on his wife's channel one day. I was like, all right, everybody, listen, Houston, I feel I owe you this at least.
Dude, I forgot about his wife's YouTube channel. There was that, too.
He was sparring on MMA or something. God. What do you think about? I think he was messing around. I think he was messing around with some kind of MMA type stuff. He was, because, he's deep into MMA, and I think he probably was just messing around, sparring with somebody or something, but it would have looked really bad in the middle of the season. I'll forgive him for it. I'll forgive him for it once everything's all done and said. I just want to know what actually happened.
What if it was something sexual?
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it would be. Daniela. I don't think Daniela would be the kind that would go full bore into defending him as aggressively as she did if it were something bad sexual, if it were something sexual with Daniela.
Yeah, that's what
now
I mean.
Now I feel like I'm out of line even talking about this. If they were having marital relations somehow and it happened that way, then I'd say hell yeah. And you know what? I totally get lying about it,
right?
Because you don't want to put your wife through all of that and everything.
Let me be very clear. That's what I was asking about something sexual with his wife. I wasn't saying he was out.
I know, but
three women in a brothel somewhere.
In the weird morality of modern athletics, it somehow felt even worse to be talking about it with his wife.
Fair enough.
Than if it were somewhere off doing something sordid.
Real quick, how important is this playoff run for Greinke? Do you think in the big picture? I don't even know if Zach Greinke wants to play baseball after this year. He hasn't talked about. He's not talked about nearly as much as Correa. He's an older guy who maybe if Greinke's goal is to get one last payday. How crucial is the postseason for Zach Greinke?
If he wants to get one last payday, that's a really good point. I think it's pretty vital because it'll be that same dynamic where the team that's going to pay him really big money is going to be the one that wants to make that next leap. But I wonder too. Greinke's at an age where he's. As great as he's been, doesn't have a bunch of postseason success, and he. I don't know if I wouldn't call it ring chasing necessarily, but he's probably not going to be trying to break the bank. He's going to just want to go and get himself a good spot on a competitive team.
He's played very little postseason baseball. I'll remind people, when he signed in Arizona, the big deal he got in Arizona, he basically said, yeah, they offered me the most money. Arizona was not a place you go to win a ring. Greinke was Greinke is the one guy who is unfiltered and honest. They offered me the most money.
He was also younger back then, though, too.
Okay.
I think getting older as a way of making you kind of philosophical, especially after he got yanked in it. He got yanked in a Game 7, and we know that that bothered him and it had nothing to do with the money. Yeah. There's got to be a part of him where he feels like he was that close to winning Game 7 of the World Series.
Yeah.
Like, that's a dude. Oh man, now I'm getting sick to my stomach just even thinking about that.
And we were 8 outs away.
He didn't even have a chance to either do it or lose it himself.
Right.
He just got okay, I get it. I get it, Zach. I understand why you're okay. I get it now. I get it.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I was like, if I were him, I'd hold a grudge. Oh,
okay. Now people are texting in Carlos Correa theories on his broken rib 2 years after the fact. Way to go, Seth. Maybe he was at a water park. Someone texted in.
Real quick, somebody said something that I disagree with.
Yeah.
He says, okay, but him sticking up for his teammates is going to wear off so quickly that when he signs that massive contract and doesn't live up to it, Correa is like Kirk Cousins. You see the potential and really think something is there. The problem is he wants to actually get paid off potential and not actually living up to it. The difference between, well, I think that's partially true, except the difference is that unlike Kirk Cousins has been abysmal in primetime games.
Yeah.
The playoffs, like Kirk Cousins is the ideal, almost the exact opposite of Carlos Correa. Like there's a couple similarities, but then in a lot of ways he's the exact opposite of Carlos Correa.
Well, and Kirk Cousins has no discernible superhero power. Like Carlos Correa does some things at an elite level that nobody does them at that you can help cost justify. Kirk Cousins got paid because he happens to be a competent quarterback, and that was the going rate. Like he wasn't paid for anything he does super well.
I think Kirk Cousins has got paid because he maximized his potential, which isn't nearly like what the potential of a Carlos Correa is.
That's right. Let's go to Pearland, talk to Rhett. Rhett, you're up on Payne and Pendergast. What's happening?
Hi, guys. How's it going? Well, I just want to talk a little. I've been listening to this for months now, and it's got to stop about people actually believing in any circumstance that Deshaun Watson will ever take another snap for the Texans. Okay? I mean, you have to understand, especially God rest peace Bob McNair, because there's no more Mr. McNair in Houston. I wouldn't trust Cal to supervise a Porta-John, okay? It's not about football. It's just not, okay? If they had Vegas had a line on who likely to take a snap, Justin Reed would be minus 170. Deshaun Watson would be plus 1,500 to get all the dumb money. Not only it just has nothing to do with that. Even if all the allegations went away, it's done. It's not coming back, okay? And it not only that, it insults the intelligence of any of the listeners and wastes of time, and it disrespects you and your show. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rhett. Appreciate it.
I think, I guess, and so to be clear, I think Rhett's talking about, like Larry and Stafford earlier was talking about Deshaun coming back. I guess we've talked about it, but both of us don't think Deshaun's coming back to the Texans ever, other than like some weird. I don't feel confident saying 100% something is or isn't going to happen with the Texans because they managed to surprise us. I think I guess I wanted to ask Rhett before he left whether when he invoked Bob McNair's name, it wasn't clear to me whether he meant that Bob McNair would have played Deshaun Watson or was about the football, or whether he was saying that Cal McNair is more of an extension of Bob McNair and it not being about the football. I don't know. I think the difference is, and this is what you have to remember, that regardless of how the Texans are operating, like they did give Deshaun Watson the second highest quarterback contract in the league. Right. Like they paid Deshaun Watson a whole lot of money. Now, Deshaun Watson had reasons to be upset with the Texans, given the way everything that went, all that. I totally get that. I mean, I was on board with being on side with him for a little while because I was so disgruntled with the way everything had gone. I think you have to separate the two in your mind. It's possible that Cal McNair cares deeply about football and winning to the point where they spent more cash last year than any other team in the league. But at the same time, maybe you could also think that he's not the guy to do it, or he doesn't make the right decisions. Like it's for some reason, it's gotten merged into one in this town where people think that bad decisions only happen because you don't care about winning. Like, people make bad decisions all the time while trying to win. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Texans as an organization, I would say just because it's been different people at different times. It's been Bob McNair, it's been Bill O'Brien, it's been Cal McNair, it's been Jack Easterby, what have you. But But Cal McNair has operated in such a way since he took over that he spent a lot of money, and I think a lot of it errantly. But it's not like he allowed Bill O'Brien to spend a lot of money because he didn't care about winning.
Right.
Like I genuinely, I'm not trying to be passive aggressive here. I don't get the logic. Like, I don't get how you can say they're spending too much money on all these players and at the same time say, and the reason they're doing it is because they don't care.
Because they don't care. Yeah.
Okay, they made bad decisions. Yeah. That's completely and totally fair. But the teams that don't care about winning and don't want to win make bad decisions while also not spending any money at all. Like, those are the two things can be true. He can care about winning and he can make bad decisions.
A few years ago, the team that was making bad decisions were the Browns until they started making a bunch of good decisions, and now they're one of the scariest teams in the NFL. David Culley laid out his early assessment of the Cleveland Browns. Who is the scariest of the Cleveland Browns if you're the Houston Texans on Sunday? That's next.
There's a lot of streaming services out there, each filled with reality TV, comedy, drama, and of course, superheroes. But there's one dedicated entirely to nonfiction TV and documentary films, and that's Curiosity Stream. History, science, nature, we've got it. Space, dinosaurs, big cats, we've got that too. And pretty much anything else you want to explore. Go ahead, add some smart TV to your smart TV with Curiosity Stream. Go to curiositystream.com to sign up and start streaming today.
Odyssey's going back to school, and we've got all the supplies you need, like A+ exclusive music stations and podcasts to help you or your student excel. Wake up and get the school day started with Acoustic Sunrise, the best mix of acoustic pop. Hit the books with classical Odyssey, passionate classical music to help you focus while you study. Listen to essential school podcasts like Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, and be inspired with TED Talks Daily. Get back to school with new exclusive stations, plus all your favorite local radio stations and podcasts on Odyssey.
You want to know what wagertainment is? It's the picks, the analysis, the information, mixed with the laughter and the entertainment, smart sports betting content that'll put a smile on your face.
The BetQL Network, streaming live each day and helping you bet smarter.
If you're a sports fan, you know why you should listen. It's sports betting content without the BS. No hot takes, no nonsense.
The BetQL Network, streaming live right now on Odyssey.
Sports, bets, and entertainment.